Tuesday. Cheers and welcome to Trades Lady Happy Hour. This is the weekly live session where I get to hang out with a different incredible tradeswoman each week, learn about her story and her journey and share that with you guys. This is my way of shining a light on all of the incredible women that are out there kicking butt in the trades in various areas, mostly unsung heroes. They're out there doing amazing work, and just existing as women in the trades is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. We make up a very small percentage of trades folks, and so this is about celebrating them and validating their existence, and hopefully adding more women to the ranks of trades folks out there. So cheers to you guys for joining in on this and coming to hang out with me. And we've got a great guest today lined up. I'm very excited to meet her. I do have a quick thank you to give to one of our sponsors, Drive Time, who has been a really huge supporter of women in the trades, in helping me out and keeping these happy hours going, and really showing their dedication to supporting women in the trades through this. So grateful for them. And I'm grateful for you guys for coming and hanging out with me. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back each week. For those of you who are new, welcome. I hope you stick around and come hang out with me more often. Normally, I am drinking whiskey for happy hour. Today, I am drinking iced tea. I've been rocking and rolling at the shop on the Iron Maven, and gonna be going back there right after this to continue working. So I figured whiskey and power tools were probably not a great idea. Little piece of information for those of you who are here watching this and those who will watch later. Next week is going to be a little bit different. Instead of having a guest for Trades Lady Happy Hour, you get to hang out with me, and we're gonna hang out at the shop, and I'll share with you kind of updates on the Iron Maven, show you around the shop, show you around what we're doing there, and answer your questions, and maybe talk a little bit about what the experiences out there are like for tradeswomen, and some of the things that we've heard kind of as themes over the years in doing Trades Lady Happy Hours. So really excited for that. Please tune in and join me for that. And for now, without further ado, I want to introduce our guest this week. Her name is Reagan May, and she is a mechanical engineer. I'm very excited to hear her story. In addition to being a mechanical engineer, she also is currently a dirt track racer, but she's done a number of different types of racing over the years. She does weight training, she does all sorts of things, more probably than I know yet. I'm sure a ton more than I know yet. But I'm really excited to hear her story and hear about her journey. I'm gonna apologize in advance. Apparently this is the witching hour for kittens, and I have 3 absolutely insane kittens running around the house like lunatics. Hopefully they will behave themselves, I say, while crossing my fingers and also not believing it's actually going to happen. But if there's some loud crashes and bangs and booms and all of that good stuff, or the camera falls over because somebody likes to knock over the tripod, whatever, I apologize in advance for that, but welcome to my crazy world. So with that, I'm going to check and see if Ms. Reagan is in the room yet.
Hello. Oh, I'm having some. Oh, there we go. Now I got you.
Very awesome. I don't know if that was you or me. I think I might still be connected to my work headphones.
No, that's okay. We actually are in the middle of a bad weather, so it very well could have been on my side too.
Oh no! I hope it's not too crazy out there.
Yeah, it's not yet. So we'll see how it goes over the next couple hours.
All right, fair enough. Well, hopefully the Wi-Fi and your signal holds up for a little while. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's really exciting to have you here.
I'm pleased to be here.
Awesome. So I gave a little introduction to who you are to everybody, all the fine folks at home, but would you mind just introducing yourself, who you are, where you're living, and kind of in a nutshell what you do now? And then we'll go back in time and talk about all the good stuff of how you got to where you are now.
Like you said, I'm Reagan May. I am in Wisconsin, out of central Wisconsin, Oshkosh area. Pretty much grew up in this area. I'm a mechanical engineer at Oshkosh Defense now. Went to school at Michigan Tech. And then since I was 10 years old, I started racing stock. I started in go-karts, but gradually got into stock cars. And now I race IMCA sport mods on dirt track.
Nice. Very cool. So you have your hands full between
Yes.
a full-time job and doing racing.
Barely.
Do you ever sleep? Do you have
Just enough
time
to
for
get by.
anything else? I'm looking at your feed and I'm like, okay, so she's doing all of this and she's doing weight training and all of these other things that you do. I don't know how you do
always
it.
busy, but I've always found that when I do have downtime, I end up filling it with something anyway. So might as well be productive along the way.
Fair enough. I resemble that comment. Like I always want free time and then I get it.
What's the next project?
Like, what can I do? What can I do? Exactly. It's a vicious cycle. So how did you, I want to know so many things. I want to know how you got into engineering. I want to know how you got into racing. Let's start with the engineering side of things. How did you wind up going into mechanical engineering? Why that choice for career path?
Ironically, racing and engineering, as far as my experience goes, kind of go hand in hand. So like I said, I started racing go-karts when I was 10. So when I was, it was myself and my younger brother, when we were at the racetrack, I was always the one that was working on the carts. I was very hands-on, while all the other kids were playing on the dirt mounds or having like a good time. I was very interested in the mechanical side of the go-karts. So that kind of what put me over the edge of like being interested in the mechanical world. And then gradually, as I got older, going through middle school, high school, I was good at math. I liked being hands-on. Like I've worked on my race cars my entire racing career. It's always been my own cars, and I've done all the setup and work on them. So it just kind of led me into going into school for mechanical engineering. I knew I liked the math and science. I loved physics in high school, so that was definitely like two things that went hand in hand, the sciences as well as being hands-on, which kind of directed me towards mechanical engineering.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. So you're 10 years old.
Yep.
And you're working on your go-kart. I love that, first of all, because that is definitely not something you see every day. I'm assuming there was somebody helping.
Definitely not been able to do it without my parents. I learned a lot through them, and my mom was always very hands-on in my racing career too, which was really cool to have another female to kind of look up to and see that she was doing it. I learned a lot from her, learned a lot from my dad along the way.
That's awesome. So did they get you into it? Did you show an interest and they were just supportive?
I love that question because it's kind of a strange scenario. So like before I was born, my dad raced SCCA, so he ran road course, and then he ran some motorcycle stuff too. But I obviously wasn't born yet, so I wasn't really involved in that and didn't really have a ton of background information on how much he was into racing. And we were actually at a local bowling alley because when I was about 9 years old, I was in like bowling league, and somebody was there with their golf cart or with their go-kart, and because they were sponsored by the bowling alley, so they were doing like a sponsor event. So they had their go-karts on stand.
Okay.
I went over and like kind of walked around it, like sat in it. I was like, this is cool. Like, I want to do this. So of course, when my dad saw my interest, he jumped right on it. And the next year we had go-karts, and we showed up to my first go-kart, like being the first time at the track with a go-kart was I was racing in it. Like we showed up and we're like, okay, let's see how this goes. And we don't know what's going on, but we'll figure it out.
I love it. And you didn't know your dad's history doing racing at that point?
I knew that he raced, but nothing like super detailed or anything like that. Like, so a lot of people always assume like, oh, you got into it because your dad did it. And it's like, like that definitely helped, but I found that path kind of on my own.
Do you remember what it was when you were that age, seeing this go-kart and checking it out and sitting it? Like, what was it that kind of got you excited and wanting to do it?
Before I ever started racing, like when I first saw it, I think the fact that it was different. I've always been a person that kind of went against the grain. Ever since I was a child, I did that. My grandmother, love her to death, would try to dress me in pink and purple, and I rebelled every chance I got with it. So I've always been a person that's kind of gone against the grain, and it was something different that not a lot of people got the experience to do it. And then once I started, it was just that adrenaline rush and the competitiveness. It's like that's in my core, and so it just kind of fed off of that.
I love it. And I also resemble that comment of
Yep.
just enjoying going against the grain. It's, it's like I became a mechanic
Yep.
because I was proving a point,
I was told
and then I fell in love with it accidentally. Right, exactly.
Yep.
What do you mean I can? Now I want to even more. Then I fell in love, and here we are. That's awesome. I absolutely love it. So your parents obviously have been super supportive of this all along the way.
Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do it. They sacrificed a lot for me and my brother growing up racing, and they worked in the shop side by side with me. They always like to tell people it was the best decision they made because they knew where I was every weekend because I was with them in the shop. So yeah, so they're
fair point.
luckily now they're to the age of retirement. So even when it comes to the racing, like they'll still come to every race that they're in town for. I don't put them to work too much now, so they get to kind of relax. But I definitely couldn't have done it without them.
That's amazing. I love it. When you were 10 and helping out on go-kart, did you get funny looks from the other kids or the other parents? Like, was this an oddity?
So it's a little bit of both. I mean, there was when I was younger, there was a couple other girls that were in the racing circuit around when I was, which was super cool because I got to be really close with them, and I still see them now, and we stayed kind of close. But it was definitely a shift. I think now there's definitely more support for women in motorsports. When I was in go-karts, like I never really had a bad experience. I was friends with a lot of the guys I raced with. There was one instant where I was doing very well and a dad was not happy that I was beating his son. And basically there's a bumper plate where you put your number on the back of the bumper, and he had something printed up that was like, you should have taken up horseback riding or cheerleading because it takes a set of balls to race. So a few years later, his dad did actually apologize to me when I was probably about 15. So that was super cool. But it's just one of those things that it didn't bother me because I was comfortable with who I was. But it's nice to see that shift happening now, that there's a lot more support and for women in motorsports.
I so love this, and I love, like, not just as a woman but like as a 10-year-old. Like I can imagine people being like, what, like, yeah. This child is working on their own vehicle. I think that's really super cool. Excuse me. So you enjoyed the racing side, you also enjoyed the mechanical side, obviously, and I know that those two don't always go hand in hand, right? Like obviously it's helpful if you know the mechanical side, but you started getting into that kind of simultaneously, hand in hand. Do you feel like one attracted you more than the other, the mechanical side of it, working on it versus the driving it?
I think it's definitely both.
Both equally.
I've always believed that in order to be the best driver that you can be, you need to know how the car works and you need to know what adjustments to make. So like that's the biggest thing when it comes to racing. Like you can, like, driving gets you so far, but unless you have a car that's set up correctly and handling well, like the best driver can take a crappy car and run fifth, but in order for them to win, they need to have the car underneath them. So I definitely think them going hand in hand was helpful, because it gave me the opportunity to kind of learn how the car works, what adjustments do or don't work, and then how the feedback from a driving standpoint goes. Knowing what those adjustments make and how they affect the car definitely helped me how to adjust how I drove the cars on the track too.
That makes sense. Absolutely. Did you ever consider doing racing as like your full-time thing?
It's very hard to now. So I come from a working class family, so I didn't have the funding naturally to go any further. I did try out for Drive for Diversity, which is a NASCAR program. So I did try
Oh,
out there. It didn't work out. So and I never had like the big sponsor money to keep going. So it got to the point that I got to college graduation and had to make a decision that it was either time to move on as from a career standpoint, move into my mechanical engineering career, or pursue racing. And just the way the cards felt for me, it was I had to work. So I definitely enjoy still getting to race on the side as a hobby. So I still get my fix there, but I definitely wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the mechanical engineering side of it too.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And you get your competitive spirit out
Yeah.
in your working out and
Exactly.
your weight training, which, by the way,
Thank
like
you.
serious badass. Like my exercise consists of working
Yeah.
on cars, and like
That is a
that's
good workout though.
about
So
the bulk of it. It is. I'm like, I don't need to go to the gym. I just work out.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of wimpy. No way I could do what you do. So, you know, in the racing side, you talk about seeing more support for women, being present, being there, whether it's working on the cars or driving them. Are there specific ways that you've seen that change
I
over
think
the
they've been
years?
doing a lot more programs higher up, or sponsors, like for example Bush Light or Bush beer sponsored a bunch of women in the higher ranks of NASCAR. So I think it's just a cultural shift of supporting more women, that even like sponsors and everything else like that are kind of going out and creating different diversity programs or whatever the case might be, on the local level. And I feel like the women like kind of stick together, and kind of support each other, which is really nice, because you usually are outnumbered. But for me, I've always liked to be viewed as like I'm just another driver. Like once the helmet goes on, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. Like you earn respect on that racetrack, and it doesn't matter if you are a male or female. So so you're just another driver once the helmet goes on. Right.
Yeah, at least that's the way it should be, right?
Right.
It shouldn't matter. So you haven't gotten any more
No.
notes saying that you should have
Nope,
gone
everyone
to
else has been
horseback
good. So yeah, just the one little anomaly, but again,
That's
like
good.
I said, you apologize. So water under the bridge.
I love it. Right. How
So
long have you been a mechanical
I
engineer?
graduated in, wow, a little over 5 years ago now. Time flies by. Yeah. So
Okay.
I've worked at Oshkosh Corporation or Oshkosh Defense my entire like professional career.
And
So
what do you do there?
yeah,
Am I gonna
I've
understand
actually had
it?
quite a unique experience. I've done a little bit of everything. I started in the commercial segment, so I was doing design for concrete trucks. So it's pretty cool to see them drive by and see the super, like basically the stairs on the front discharge concrete trucks, the stairs and the platform on the top. Like I worked on that. So there's other parts of it's like, oh, I designed that, and now I see them driving by all the time. So I did a little bit there. Then I worked a little bit in the industrial engineering side of it. So working like in the plant, whether that's like making tooling or designing tooling or writing work instructions, helping the assembly line be more efficient. And then lately I have moved over to the defense side for probably about the last 3 years or so. I've been on the international defense team. So I do a lot of design work.
Wow.
And more like project management side from a technical standpoint, working with them. So that will be anything like JLTV. So any of our military trucks. So we are designing kits or get different kits on it. So there's a lot kind of goes into it, but it's a good experience because I get to travel a lot with work now as well. So definitely can't complain.
And you've stuck very clearly to the vehicle.
Yeah, so
side
definitely
of
very
things.
hands-on. A lot of the work I do is what we call it build coordinating. So anytime we do like a prototype truck, our team does the design work for it, and then we take it to our prototype lab where we actually physically build the truck. So again, my love for being hands-on definitely plays into my role there. So I'm working on the floor with the technicians, building the prototype trucks, documenting any design flaws, coming up with mitigation plans for things that don't work or we aren't getting parts in time, which has been a big problem lately. So coming up with plans B, C's, and D's, trying to get the truck built. So I get to do a lot of hands-on stuff at work as well.
Was it coincidence that you wound up working on trucks and cars and all of that kind of stuff, or was that by intent
probably
or
a little
by
of both.
accident?
I would say probably more by accident than anything. Like, so I did an internship when I was in college at a racing company that did racing components and parts. So then I knew a couple people that had worked here at Oshkosh Corporation, and I did another internship there and just kind of fell in love with the culture and the fact that when you are working on the military trucks and even our commercial stuff, we do fire trucks. It's keeping people safe and what they're doing in their job. So it definitely has that meaningfulness behind it. The fact that it is trucks and car related definitely falls in my wheelhouse of what I like and what I understand. So that definitely helped.
That's awesome. Did you seek out this particular company intentionally when you were graduating from college?
I had my good experience with the internship. So actually I was very fortunate and had a full-time job lined up before I went back for my last semester. So that definitely helped.
Nice.
So yeah, and like I said, I've been here for over 5 years now, and I love every minute of it. And I get to go back and do campus recruiting at Michigan Tech. So it's really nice to kind of give back on that side of it too.
That's awesome. I love that. Very rewarding. I'm curious on the like racetrack versus engineering, right? Was, obviously either it shouldn't matter whether we're male or female. The tools don't know the difference. Nothing makes a difference other than perception of those we work with, right? And society as a whole. Did you find a difference in one arena versus the other? So as far as that goes?
Like I said, I think over time, like it's definitely gotten better for women in motorsports and even in engineering as well. I think early on, sometimes you have to prove yourself more than like your male counterpart would in both fields. Like for racing, for example, maybe people have a tendency to think that you will be kind of a pushover and they'll try to crowd you down, and you just kind of have to stand your own and race them like they race you, and then you earn that respect. Like you don't go out there wrecking them, but you have that mutual respect once you race with them for a while. And then same thing with work. I think just in general, the way the culture is going, like there's more emphasis on getting more women in STEM and more women in science fields and engineering, that it sometimes plays out to be a like benefit. So I've gotten a lot of different opportunities that I think I've gotten because I am a female, but also because I am still good at my job. Like it's not just one, like both got to go hand in hand. But I definitely think there's pros and cons. Same thing with in the engineering field. Maybe you have to prove yourself a little bit more being a female, but once you earn that respect, like it's mutual respect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Excuse me. There's obviously like the huge like STEM movement for women in technology and in engineering and math and science. I feel like it doesn't always hit the trades per se. So that's always an interesting thing to me. You talk about where was I going with this?
Yeah.
I had a thought. I had a great question and then it just left my brain. Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. God, it was a good question too. I hate when that happens. So I'm going to switch gears. There was somebody who asked a question in the question box about any people in engineering school or even on the racetrack that like really took you under their wing and were great mentors to you.
From the racing side, there's a family, the Coleman family. They have been in racing for honestly since the 60s or 70s. So they were definitely rooted there. That's actually where my internship was working with them. So not only did they help from a racing standpoint, they also helped kind of let me grow as an engineer as well. So they have a house driver that helped me through probably starting in 2014 timeframe. So we worked together a lot on that when I was racing asphalt. So I was running super late models, which is kind of like the highest class of the local or touring level, like kind of the NASCAR levels are above that. So I learned a lot there from a setup standpoint, from driving tips. So that definitely helped me further my career from a racing standpoint. Ended up winning a track championship. So I was the first female in Wisconsin to win a super late model track championship. So definitely learned a lot. Thank you.
Congratulations.
With them. So Coleman Racing is still my primary sponsor to this day. So that was cool. Like I said, they're from the asphalt world. So when I was kind of thinking like, you know what, I kind of want to build a dirt car. I kind of want to change things up and get a different challenge. They were right away. We're like, yep, I want in, like, we'll support you through this. Will you run our house number? So number 119 is their like house car number. They're like, okay, would you feel comfortable running? And I was like, I'd be honored to. So definitely nice to have those people in your corner. From an engineering standpoint, there's been quite a few, especially at work. Oshkosh is very good about personal and professional development. So there was one of the VPs definitely helped me through some hard decision making when it comes to my career and kind of what I wanted to do. There was about a year and a half out of college. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in engineering, but I didn't know what aspect of it. So he definitely gave me a lot of tips and a lot of opportunities to go into the rotational engineering program. So that's where I got to experience a lot of different segments and different roles as engineering in Oshkosh. So that definitely helped me from a professional standpoint and personal. I became a lot more confident in what I was doing. So he definitely helped me from the engineering side.
Do you have, as a result of those relationships, do you have tips for folks out there who maybe want to be mentors or maybe aren't, but how they can be a good mentor to somebody? What makes a good mentor and what makes a bad mentor?
Think, being personable is number one. So like I talk about the VP that definitely helped me through work. I mean, when you think of like, oh, somebody who's at the VP level, like they're not going to care or have time for someone who's entry level. But I was able to talk to him just like another person. It wasn't, oh, he's suit and tie and I'm not. So I think just being approachable and even when it's not convenient for you, like being able to like help answer questions or talk about your life experiences definitely helps someone who's younger, who's looking for someone to kind of help mentor them through whether it's work or life or whatever.
Do you have anybody you mentor at work or
so
outside of work?
I would like to think I have some bit of an influence at work. So like I said, I went through the rotational program, rotational engineering program, and through that program, I was kind of an odd case because normally those are entry level, fresh out of college roles, and I had been working full time for about a year and a half. So there's been a few females and males, but primarily females that have come through that program that I would like to think I was kind of their sounding board when they were trying to make decisions on what rotations they wanted to do, what they wanted to do after the rotational program. So I'd like to think that I was at least able to help one or two people through that, just being able to talk about, again, my experiences. Not that I had been there much longer than them, but had gone through the rotational program, has been in different roles, and kind of was able to talk through how I navigated it and how I could help them.
Yeah. I think particularly as women, like if we are the minority in our workplace, like being able to just talk to another woman and like that shared experience and being able to relate to one another is just, it's so much bigger than it's difficult to explain why that matters to people, why it makes a difference. I remembered my question from before. You kind of talked about the opportunities that you've gotten as a result of being a female, because there are some opportunities that are out there now. It's a conversation that I've had with a number of women, where sometimes they feel like they're not sure if they want to take advantage of those opportunities. Like maybe it's unfair, or like that, why should they get a position just because they're a woman? And you said something really important that I want to make sure is like heard, that it's not just because you're a woman, but because you're also skilled and deserving of whatever that is. But can you talk about that a little more? Because I think it's an important thing for some of the women out there to hear, and I think for the guys to hear too. Like, yes, there's scholarships for women, specifically, and we all want to be equal and gender neutral, right? But why does it matter, and
I think
why
a lot
is it
of it
different?
comes down to is it's you are still good at your job, or you're good at that skill. You aren't being chosen for this award or this opportunity because you are female. Like, does that help? Probably, but at the same time, if you weren't able to do the job that they want you to do, they would not, like, they would bypass you and either go to another female that's qualified or another male that could do the job. Like, from a business standpoint, they can't make their sole decision on whether you're a female or not, because then they will not survive as a business. So they're going to pick somebody that
Right.
is qualified and skilled for whatever that scenario might be. So yes, I think there's an underlining benefit to it sometimes in a male dominated field, whether that's in the trades, engineering, whatever it is. But I still think you have to be able to prove that you can do the job or the task that's at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. And I think too, it's like it balances out the struggle.
Yo.
On the other side of things, right? Like, how many opportunities did I get passed up on because I was a female, that when those opportunities come up, when I can get an opportunity because I'm a female, like, I'm gonna take it.
Well, and then also,
and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it.
Being able to take it, like, you're being the person in the room that represents the females. Like, you're giving them a fighting chance to further their careers. And I think it, like you said, when it all works out at the end, like, it's going to balance out whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. What are your goals and ambitions? Like, what would you like to do in engineering in the future? What would you like to do in racing
so
in the
from
future?
An engineering standpoint, I've always thought I wanted to stay like at least close to the technical. But I've started to enjoy the project and people management side of it. But you're still able to do that and still stay on the technical side. So I definitely want to keep moving forward in my career in that direction. I think a lot of that comes down to is I found kind of a passion in helping other people, whether that's from like a mentor standpoint or just from like a professional growth standpoint. So being that people side of it kind of meets that desire that I have. But I'm loving what I'm doing at Oshkosh. Like I said, I have the opportunity to travel internationally, and I want to keep riding that one out and kind of see where it goes. From a racing standpoint, I always joke, it's like, oh, I'm washed up, I'm old, because I'm not trying to make it into NASCAR. I'm not trying to make racing my career. So my biggest goal there is just to have fun. It got to a point when I was trying to make it as a career, got very stressful, turned into a second job because I was still working as an intern at the same time. So I was still working a full-time job and trying to make it in racing, and it kind of took the fun out of it for a little bit, just because it was so stressful. I was in a development program that I was against 6 other people in across the United States to win $50,000, and it was like I'm not running as many races as these other guys are. So it turned into a job because I had to do well in every race. So now I'm just really enjoying having fun. Like I said, I made that transition over to dirt racing. So I'm running an IMCA Sport Mod now. This is my 2nd year. So I'm still very much in the learning phase. So just kind of get better each night and every year, and just kind of improve from that standpoint. It was
Why
different.
dirt track?
I I had raced, I had raced, man, how old was I? I was 15 years old when I got into a super late model. I ran super late models for over 10 years. Um, it, I mean, I was considered a veteran by the time I left asphalt racing. I was like, I'm 26 years old. How am I considered a veteran? Like, yeah. So,
Isn't that crazy?
so just kind of doing that transition over to the dirt, it was something different. Like from a driving and a setup standpoint, they're totally different. So it's something new that I can learn. So I love being challenged. So that was part of it. And the other part of it was the asphalt world was just getting to be to the point that it was too expensive. You had to have basically a full-time crew. You were racing against people that's what they did for their job. It's like they short track asphalt raced. My parents were getting to the point they were getting close to retirement. I couldn't make my mom and dad work on the cars as much as they were doing. So going the dirt track, it was me and my boyfriend are able to do it. If my parents come and help, and we have one other guy from work who helps out. But if they have something going on that weekend, at least the two of us can still go racing.
That's awesome.
No,
does your boyfriend race
no,
as well?
He strictly works on the car.
So he's just a huge supporter.
Yeah, so his dad raced
awesome.
growing up. I actually ironically did not meet him through racing. I knew his dad because he owns a different race car parts store, so I knew him from the racing world. His dad, but I didn't know Kurt. And I actually met him at work, and then we bonded over racing, and then decided to go dirt track racing. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Excuse me. In what ways is it different? Like, can you highlight some of that? I mean, I'm not a racer at all. I've been accused of being a grandma driver. I have valid reasons for it, though. I just want to say that. But so I don't know a lot about the different types of racing and where those differences are. What has been the biggest adjustment for you in switching to dirt track?
Talk kind of two. One on the car side, one on a driving side. So on the car side, in the asphalt car, you don't want a lot of suspension travel. So you are trying to keep the car glued down to the track. So like you'll have like just a little bit of space between the frame and the track, and you don't want the nose to come up. So you are going in a lot faster, and you're keeping the car straight, making the turn and picking up the gas. So like a big thing from a setup standpoint is you don't want the suspension to really move. On the dirt side, it's the complete opposite. So on an IMCA Sport mod, you want the back, like the rear end of the car, to hike up, because that's kind of where the suspension is moving there. So you'll have a couple inches of travel that the car's hiked up. So then you got a lot more movement, so the rear end's shifting a lot more. And then from a driving standpoint, like I said, with asphalt stuff, you're going in straight. On the dirt side, you're kind of slinging it in sideways. You're like, you spend most of the corner counter steering, because you have the back end of the car hiked up and kind of like drifting around the corner. So two very different driving styles. As far as like dirt track goes, like you're trying to make adjustments because the track's changing. You might start with a really wet, tacky track that has a lot of grip, and then by the time you run the end of the night, it might be slick, like dry and dusty and slicked up. So there's that whole aspect of it that you're trying to learn how to make those adjustments and decisions as well.
Yeah, that's gotta be a totally different pace of things versus like you get used to the track, you know what's coming up, and yeah. Take away the stress piece of it, take away the pressure for sponsors and all of the rest of it. Do you find dirt track more fun or asphalt?
That's very hard. A lot of people always ask me that. It's very hard. I think from a pure excitement standpoint, dirt track is a lot of fun, because you're sliding in sideways, you're going 3-4 wide. Like if you run into somebody, the body panel crinkles, you just hammer it out at the end of the night. Like it's just a different style of racing. Asphalt is a lot faster. Like there's tracks that I was averaging 120 miles an hour. We don't see those speeds on the dirt, at least in my class. So you have that adrenaline of being fast in the asphalt car, but as far as like side by side racing, like going in sideways, sliding under people, that side of the dirt track's a lot of fun. Yeah.
It sounds more fun.
Yeah.
Sounds more up my
It's a lot of
alley,
fun.
honestly.
So if there's a track near you, I highly recommend checking it out. Yeah.
I don't need any more expensive hobbies. Don't tempt me. I have enough expensive hobbies. What have been some of your biggest challenges in your career and in this path of your life?
I think, I guess the biggest one is I've always been very hard on myself. I've always wanted to do very well. Sometimes I forget I need to take a step back and be like, yep, you're still learning. Like, you're still a beginner in this, whether it's engineering or racing related, and kind of give myself a little bit of grace and not be so hard. But I think that's definitely been the hardest part from like a mental standpoint, but I am getting better. So it was definitely hard making the transition from dirt, asphalt into dirt, because I was going from being a top 3 car to and winning championships, like having that, showing up in the track and knowing that like I was somebody that was going to do well, or at least was a contender, to going from the into the dirt track, where now I'm the new guy. I'm racing with guys who've been racing on dirt track for 15 plus years, so they've got the experience on me. There's large fields, like most races we go to, there's 35 plus cars that show up for my class, and they start 20. So making the show was an accomplishment for my first year, and now we're working on getting those top 5s, top 10s. So I ended up 4th in my last race, out of 34 cars that were there. So that was good. It's been a struggle making adjustments on the slick track, but we are starting to figure that out. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've adapted quickly.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
there.
a lot of it's just been being too hard on myself, but I'm getting better.
Do you mind sharing kind of some of maybe the tools that you use, or ways that you kind of get yourself out of that when you're in that mode of beating yourself up or pushing yourself too hard, and remembering like, okay, this is something I'm working on, not doing this to myself.
I think the biggest thing is just trying to like look back and where I've come. And rather than being concerned of like, well, I didn't do well in this race, or I didn't do well at this, but then thinking back, okay, well, if this would have been a year ago, I would have been ecstatic for getting an 8th place finish or whatever it was. I wouldn't have been able to do this a year ago, and kind of trying to kind of reflect on where I've come from, rather than in that moment of being upset, because I am very fortunate to have been able to do what I have done, both schooling and education wise, as well as from a racing standpoint. So trying to kind of think back on the good times, or how I've improved, and use that as my mindset going into the next race.
Good answer. Biggest mistake or learning opportunity, as we like to call it. I think it's really important that we share those things, and it normalizes for folks out there watching, like, no matter how far you've gotten in your career, like we've all made mistakes and we've all had challenges. If you don't mind sharing a good example.
In general, as far as work goes, I think my biggest mistake is not reaching out to people when I needed someone else's support or advice. I was, like I said, like when I was struggling about a year and a half into my career, I kept everything really bottled up, started making rash decisions and everything like that, where as if I would have leaned on my support system, I probably would have gotten through that a little bit smoother than I did. And then, like I said, from the racing standpoint, again, it comes back to like not being so hard on myself, because that just kind of trickles into the next race, and then you get down this dark path of not believing in yourself. Then you're no longer confident, and it makes it a lot harder to get out of that spot.
I love what you said about that. Like there's this misnomer, I feel like we're supposed to do everything alone. And it's not like racing. Yeah, you're the one in the car, but
Yep.
it's a team effort, right? And in the rest of your career, I don't know if it's more solitary or if it's more team, but I think no matter what, there's still this idea that we have to do everything ourselves and not get
Yeah.
help from others. Do you mind talking about that, I guess, a little bit, and kind of how you've made that transition yourself and what brought you to that realization that I
Yeah.
can reach out to
I
other
guess
people?
without getting into too much of the details, I was looking at leaving the company I work with to go somewhere else. And I honestly, I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just made a brash decision. I was like, I don't like what I'm doing and I'm going to leave. And then kind of the realization when I made it known that I was going to leave, like the number of people that reached out to me that was like, hey, like, why didn't you talk to me? Like, I could have helped you. We could have got you in a different position. We could have gave you different experiences or whatever the case was. I think for me, it was crazy to see the number of people that truly cared. Not only about me, because they didn't care from like a company perspective. Like they more cared about myself and my career moving forward. That it was crazy to see that level of support. So since then, I have reached out and talked to quite a few different people at work. I have another mentor that I meet with at least once a month or so to kind of talk through any issues. And he's always like, well, if you ever think about leaving again, make sure you tell me before. So he never lets me live it down. But it's just nice to know that, I mean, people do care genuinely. So I think just finding those people has been really helpful. I have a good group of friends that I've met through the gym that from like a personal standpoint, like anytime I'm emotionally not feeling great, having somebody that I can just talk to and just bounce things off, even if it's something seems trivial or ridiculous, but you get that good support group around you and it makes it a lot easier for you to get through hard times or for you to feel more comfortable to talk about the things that aren't comfortable to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Cheers to that. I wish there was a way, like
Yep.
we have to learn those lessons on our own, right? Like, and yet I wish that that was something that we could teach others so that they can avoid making that mistake of like, you're not alone. You don't have to do this alone. There are people who want to support you.
Yep.
And like find the mentors, reach out and find them. I love it. Switching gears a little bit, I'm curious because you said you get to travel internationally and all that kind of stuff. What's been your favorite place to go?
Man,
and
oh,
why?
that's gonna be hard. Honestly, I've been to a couple places in Europe. Greece was amazing. I loved being on the islands. And the food. Oh, the food was really good. Like honestly, I would rank everywhere by the food. I was also in Estonia. They had some really good food too, and they had these amazing pancakes that I ate like every day. So I've been, like I said, I've been very fortunate to be in to get to travel for work. But I would recommend Greece. I was in Athens, and then I was on the islands, and definitely the islands was more my kind of vibe. It was very nice weather, food was great. So as long as you like warm weather, that is.
Yes. Yes, warm weather,
Yeah.
beach, good food. I'm totally game. Is there some place that you're hoping to be able to get to go through work or personally?
So I would love to go to either Italy or France. Potentially there's some opportunity with work there. And then as then for like
Nice.
personal travel, I would love to go to Iceland. I love hiking. I love anything outdoors. So being able to hike in Iceland is definitely on my bucket list.
I love it. I love it. I feel like with your drive and determination, that's not going to be a problem. You're gonna find your way there.
Right.
All you
Tell
need
me
is
I
somebody
can't,
to
and I'll be
challenge
there.
you. You can't. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I'm challenging
Now it's
you
gonna
officially. Nice. We are getting close to the end of our hour, which is amazing because I feel like there's like so much more to talk about. Which is these are an hour, but they go by so fast. So fast. I do want to end, if you don't mind, with the question I always like to ask is if you could go back and talk to the younger you or a young girl like you or even a young boy out there who wants to do what you're doing on either side, on any of it. What is your advice or
Yeah,
words
I think
of
the biggest
wisdom
thing
to
is to be
them?
confident. There's been times in both racing and work that I have not felt confident, and you only get yourself in a hole that way. So be confident, trust yourself, um, and be willing to take those risks, whatever it is. Like challenge the status quo, care less about what people think of you, and focus more on yourself and kind of what your goals are.
I love it. And I love that that kind of flies in the face of what we as, particularly as women, are taught, but I think our
Yeah.
society in general, right? Don't be selfish, you know, and don't take care of yourself. Worry about other people first. And
Yes.
yeah, amen to that. Very cool. Thank you so very much for joining me and hanging out with me for this last hour. It's been really cool getting to know you and hear your story and the things that you've accomplished and how you've overcome your challenges. So I appreciate you coming and hanging out with me. I hope everybody watching enjoyed as well. Um, Go and follow her. Show her some love and support and watch all of her adventures with weight training and racing and all of the rest of the cool stuff that she does. Um, I want to again thank our sponsors, Drive Time, for helping make this happen. I saw some of you folks buying badges and all of that. I'm just learning how all of that works. But I want to thank you for supporting and for that love that you've been sending this way. So thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Make sure you come back next week to meet another amazing tradeswoman. This and all of the past Trades Lady Happy Hours live in my IGTV tab. So you can always go back if you're needing a little inspiration, you're needing a little motivation. There's a ton, 99 now, amazing women that that we've had the privilege of getting to talk to and get to know a little bit. So tons of great stuff there. As a quick reminder, next week, actually it'll not be another tradeswoman. It will be me. I guess I am a tradeswoman, but I will be hanging out with you guys at my shop, showing you around the Iron Maven, the current all-female build. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
you should totally come out to Phoenix and visit and come be. We would love to have you there. We've got some suspension set up actually. We need some.
Yeah.
We could have used you for some of that stuff, but lots of fun challenges I think you'd enjoy. We've had a number of engineers on the build, and it just sidetrack a little bit here. We had a woman come out recently, and I showed her how we were setting up the suspension, and she's like, you know what we call that, right, Bogi? I'm like,
Yeah.
what? She's like, redneck engineering.
Sometimes it
Like,
works.
well,
It's okay.
you know, I'm right. Totally. I'm that person who's like,
Yeah.
I think that'll fit. I would not make it as an actual engineer. But so again, thank you. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day or evening. I guess this is. Please come out and visit. Stay in touch. And for everybody who's watching, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy your rest of your evening. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And come back and hang out with
Awesome.
me
Thank
next
you.
week. Goodbye, guys. Thank you.